Hi, everybody. Welcome to Unboxed Healing. My name's Meredith Feudernick-Garrick. I'm a licensed professional counselor, a brain spotting consultant, certified psychedelic assisted therapist, and the founder of Integrative Journey Modern Psychotherapy. I like to say my work lives at the intersection of science and soul. So I am passionate about helping therapists and clients bridge brain-body modalities, non-pathologizing frameworks, and authentic human connection. So this podcast, Unbox Healing, we're really talking about unboxing in the work, talking honestly about what it means to show up as a real person in the healing space. So today, our conversation will be about building compassion through the journey of parenthood. Um, Definitely a topic that sits close to my heart. Parenthood, whether experienced directly or vicariously through our clients, it brings us face to face with the echoes of our own stories, right? And that Jana will be talking about that a lot more today. So I'm so excited to introduce Jana Glass, and I'll turn it over to you to introduce yourself.
Sure. Thank you so much, Meredith. I really appreciate your time and giving the space and unboxing the journey to parenthood and how to have more compassion and understanding. I am a licensed counselor. I'm located in Atlanta, Georgia. I have a private practice where I see people who are struggling with past events that are still difficult today, people who want to be sober, and people who struggle on their journey to parenthood. That can be the trauma they bring into the role as a parent, could be challenges with conceiving, maintaining, birthing, or postpartum, and actually having to raise a child. And I'm there to try to support them through every stage and phase. I'm constantly amazed at how many people feel very isolated and alone in their journey and feel like they're doing it wrong when there's so much universal challenge that happens, and just wanting people to feel less alone, more connected, and just honestly have more calm and grounded nervous systems as they are trying to raise the next generation, because that is incredibly daunting, particularly in our current world and state of our world right now. And so just really trying to help people get to a place where they can have more self-compassion and understanding and linking together things that they've had happen in the past and how they impact them today, but most importantly, what those solutions are to integrate those past hurts so that they're able to parent in the way they always thought they would. Because I think that's part of the challenge. When we're stressed, we revert to what we know. And in parenting, what do we know? What we were brought up as. And so you may say, I will never blank. I will never yell at my kid, or I will never make a threat, or I will never tell them to go to their room. But when we're stressed and in the moment where we've gone through all the tricks that we have available and we are still overwhelmed at that point, all of a sudden you find yourself doing all those things because they're familiar, and trying to help people understand that, be able to get to the root of that when they want to make that change, so that they are able to show up present day, in a way that feels more congruent with the way they thought they would parent, but also giving themselves understanding, because parenting is really hard. And I think people don't realize it because so many people do it, whether it's having their own child, whether it's being a teacher or a scout leader or a coach or just adjacent to children in some way. So many people interact with kids. And so it's taken as, well, everyone's doing it, so it must be easy. But most people are having a different struggle. It's just not always at the same time. There's different life stages that people face that. So just trying to really help encourage people to get that support that they need, be able to integrate past events on the deep brain level, and giving them hope moving forward so they're able to be the parent they thought they would be.
Ooh, so good.
Small things.
Yeah, just right. Yeah. Oh my, yeah, just a universal um And I'm curious, and as much as you're comfortable sharing, it's always interesting to me to hear from therapists and healers, like, how did you get here? Right? Because usually we get here with our own story. So as much as you feel comfortable sharing.
No, I appreciate it. And so, earlier in my career when I had met my partner and we were moving forward with building a life together, we ended up moving within the city of Atlanta. And Atlanta is a major city. And so, where you really want to live close to where you work. And so I had been in town. We moved out of the town, more to the north side of the city, and my office was right by about four different fertility clinics. And so, we haven't even started to build our family yet, but I'm getting more and more referrals for people who are having challenges on their path to parenthood. So I'm like, oh, I might need to get some training on how to work with this population because it's popping up in my practice. And so I started delving in, started getting, more around fertility, around perinatal mood and anxiety disorders, and really beefing up, you know, my support for the populations, and then got married and started on our own journey to becoming parents. That was not straightforward and really involved lots of different invasive testing. We did do assisted reproduction, and our journey lasted for 3.5 years. And it was like life imitating art, imitating life, because some of the clients I was seeing were patients at the same clinic I was going to. And so I would have to cautiously kind of be like, oh, when's your next appointment? Okay, I'm scheduling my appointment not during that time, and helping people while I was in a similar phase. And I really credit brain spotting to helping me stay calm and grounded through that. But we did get our outcome finally, and ended up having twins. And that started a whole new journey of, now that we have gotten through the hard part of getting them earthside, now we have to raise them. And so it's just been my passion to really work with the perinatal population, from when people are like, I think I might want to have a kid one day, maybe, all the way through to child is here, now I have to raise them, right? Like, and all the challenges that can come, because I think people are very much drawn to like birth trauma just because it's such an obvious pain point,
Mm.
right? Because even the most straightforward births, are challenging, right? It's just by the nature of what birth is. But I think the lesser seen parts is getting more seen now with, more pop culture information as well as social media outlets. We're seeing more people sharing their stories, but I think a lot of people have assumptions about how babies are made, and what that does to people to have to go through a journey and then have to parent. And that really ultimately it brings up a lot of their unresolved traumas from their own childhood. The ACEs, the adverse childhood experiences, has become really kind of popular buzzwords, just because I think the medical community, along with the mental health community, has just kind of picked that right up. It's really looking at the different adverse childhood experiences that can happen. It's a 10 question that asks, just about five of them are more interpersonal, of like something that would have happened to you, and five of them are things you would have experienced or witnessed within your home. It definitely has its limitations, but it is a kind of easy way to get a score, if you will. And what we really see from ACEs is that if you have had adverse childhood experiences, and some of those are almost unavoidable because they are things such as having someone divorced in your family, you know, having somebody mistreat you verbally, having someone mistreat you physically, right? And so, but we see that even an ACEs score of 2, which is not very difficult to have, can really increase difficult outcomes when it comes to mood during pregnancy and after birth, as well as increased risk of prematurity of a baby that you may have. And so it really makes the case that in an ideal world, which we don't live in, that people would be able to work through any of their childhood experiences prior to having children, but that's not always going to happen. And so it's never too late to be able to get healing from things that you might even feel like, wow, well, that happened decades ago. So I'm not sure it's still relevant. But what we find is that anything that was too much too fast or nervous system overwhelming, if it's not processed through to completion on a brain level, it stays. And so as we're going through current day things, if any of that relates or touches on that unresolved material, we have a stronger reaction than would be anticipated. So people will say, oh, my kid knocked over a glass of water, and you would think that they set the house on fire the way I reacted. And they look and they're like, how I'm acting is not in proportion to what's happening. And so I'm not saying that's the only way to see that there's trauma, but it's one indicator when you find yourself going, wow, I just don't feel like myself. And I feel like what anyone else would do and what I do is not in balance. And so being able to work with folks to find the solutions to be able to revisit that material that has been trapped in the subcortical brain, in the feeling brain, and processing that through to completion, it just relieving those internal burdens that people have been carrying is such a gift. And I do that mostly through brain spotting. Some people use other approaches, but it is so gentle and such deep healing that people really are able to find that harmony again between how they want to react when the glass of water gets spilled, and being able to be like, oh, yeah, water spills, let's clean it up. No big deal. And that feels congruent through their body, because we may know it's not a big deal for water to spill in our rational brain, but in the moment, how we feel is, oh my God, yep, there you go. You can point in that limbic system, in the feeling brain, you feel under threat, even though it's just a glass of water. And so bringing that harmony between the thinking and feeling brain allows it to just be a glass of water that spills. Is it inconvenient? Of course. Is it the end of the world? No, it's not. Right. And that being able to have that feel easier, and that you are able to face bigger challenges than just a glass of water spilling with a more calm and grounded response. And like I said, I think everybody goes into the role of parenting or coaching thinking, okay, I'm just going to be chill. I'm going to go about it this way. And it's really hard when that does not match.
Right. And I love how you brought up, that this can come up working with kids in any capacity, right? In a coaching role,
Completely.
a teaching role. You see it all the time. Even like in the media, right? Like that coach that's just, um, uh, just a little bit hot-headed or something like that.
Yes.
And so it doesn't necessarily have to be um, parent-child role, maybe as we think about
Mm-mm.
it traditionally. It can be how we show up with children in general.
Correct. And so, yes, I mean, I think parenting, it's a little bit more intense just because it's more persistent and you're with the child more hours of the week. Right. But I think we see that. No, I mean, I think we see it with teachers. I think we see it with parapros. I think we see it with coaches, like, right. That like all of a sudden something will touch on their stuff and their response is just not proportional. And so I'm not saying that we can be like, go get therapy, but like, it would be a much more regulated world if people would, to be honest, that be able to recognize like, look, I'm just a human being and I'm doing the best I can, but I'm carrying things that, it's not that if you could just be like, just don't react that way, then you wouldn't need that level of support, right? Or
Haven't
just
tried
calm
that.
down,
Yeah.
right? Like in the moment when someone's and people are like, just calm down.
Yeah.
It's really hard. Like they're like, thanks, I wouldn't have thought of that.
Right.
Appreciate it, right? Like it's like they literally it's too much happening at once, and their nervous system is going into fight or flight, and they can't help it. It's literally an instinct. And so that's what I'm saying is that being able to work with people to not always have something that's difficult feel like a threat and be able to approach it as, okay, we have a challenge. How do we want to get through it? As opposed to we have a challenge now, it's going to show up in a very exaggerated or elevated way.
Yeah, and it is a really non-pathologizing way of looking at these types of responses, right? Because I mean, I can't even, name how many people I've spoken to that like they feel like something's wrong with them that they're reacting this way. Like they love their kids, they miss them when they're at school, but like there must be something wrong with me. And when we like link it back to just like the brilliance of survival, it's a whole different perspective, really.
Right. Well, and that's where the self-compassion comes in, because if you have a child that goes to whether it's daycare, whether it's preschool, whether it's, elementary, middle, or high school, there's a lot of expectations on that child and they want to deliver, right? So if they're supposed to sit in their seat, they want to sit in their seat. If they're supposed to be quiet, they want to be quiet. If they, right, like whatever it is, but they're holding a lot of their experience emotionally because they are trying so hard to deliver on expectations that when they come home, it's like they now have had all of this building and it will come out in different ways, whether it's the child's irritability, whether they're not listening, whether they are emotional, but it's a lot. And most parents have had their own day separate from the child. And it's like you go to the next shift, right? You get off work and you go to the next shift of work. And so when your child is dysregulated from the day because they've been trying so hard and they come home and just, you know, lay it all on you, it's also really hard to stay, oh, okay, right. Like I was excited to see you and now I'm not as excited because, right? Because you're bringing all your frustration, like, and complaints and challenges, and that's also part of the parenting process and being able to say like, yeah, I've had a hard day too and now I need to show up for my kid and this is really hard and I need to try to give them the healthy outlets so that they can recharge because they're going back to school tomorrow, right? Like, and I'm going back to work tomorrow. But it's a constant interplay of, and kids are developing, right? Not all their brain parts are online yet. They don't have all the regulation skills. We're trying to help build those. But that can be really challenging if we have our own dysregulated nervous system. And so that's why I think trying to get that support, I think people have stigma still, it's a little better, but around getting therapy or counseling or coaching or whatever will help. It's because this is really hard. And a lot of things can be true at once. And it's really hard to be Mary Poppins all the time, right? Like it's an ideal. We can strive if that's your jam to be right, like to be like Mary Poppins or pick someone else, right? Who just kind of is always in a pleasant place. But it's really hard when that is the expectation held over us. And we're trying to do that in a system that doesn't really support that happening. And, trying to be understanding to yourself and to your child and having that compassion across to be like, yep, today's just really hard. Let's see what we need to do to get through the rest of today because tomorrow will be a new day. Or if I keep having a string of days, that's probably a good indicator that I need additional help outside of just friends and family, that maybe I need to go and seek additional therapy, ideally someone who does nervous system regulation intervention and more brain and body based approach, because the stuff that we're talking about, it doesn't live in the rational brain. You cannot talk yourself out of past traumas because that's not where it's located. As you held your brain up, it's like the prefrontal cortex, right? The red there is the rational and logical brain. So you could say, I know I should not lose it over this. But when we're going more into the limbic system, it's like, but I'm losing it. right? Like, but I feel like I have to. And I know this isn't a threat, but it sure feels like it. And so it's bringing those things into harmony, that what we know is what we also know congruently in our feelings, so that we are able to slow down, that we're able to help our child who needs us to co-regulate and help them get regulated, because they cannot co-regulate with, if the adult nervous system is not calm and grounded, your child cannot co-regulate with you, right? If you have two overwhelmed nervous systems, they just clash with each other. If the adult has the calm grounded nervous system, the child can regulate with that nervous system and have more harmony. And so again, it doesn't mean you can't have a bad day. It doesn't mean you can't be dysregulated. And when you do, being able to say I'm human, but it is trying to create space for more calm grounded regulation so your child can experience that with you. I
Beautiful.
know. It's
It's
all happening, all interplay, all at once.
yes, yes. And one of the learning objectives here is talking about some effective interventions to help build this understanding and compassion. Is there any tips or things that folks can do maybe on their own that
Yes.
offer?
Yeah. And so, of course, I'm going to promote brain spotting just because I see the difference that it makes in people's lives, of really like things they were anxious about or things they were irritable about. It really integrates it, and they really don't have that same anxiousness or irritability or sadness or any other emotion, because it's really healed in the deepest parts of our brain. So that's ideal, but not everyone's going to be able to access brain spotting. So that makes sense. And so there's a couple of things that you are able to do short term in the moment to be able to give yourself a breath, to be able to take a moment and be like, okay, is this direction I want to go, or can I go a different direction right now? And so our vagus nerve, there's a lot of talk about the vagus nerve, but it's our 10th cranial nerve, and it literally runs into all of the major organs in our body. But the vagus nerve can also directly link to our parasympathetic nervous system. And that's the part of our nervous system that allows us to slow our heart rate, to slow our respiration, to be able to slow our heartbeats per minute. It's literally, once a threat has been identified, it's what gets triggered to calm us back down, to say, oh, there was a threat, but it's now been neutralized. Let's calm down. And so there is some things that you are able to do to help regulate your nervous system. So this is not going to solve the unresolved issues, but it can help give you some space to be able to get back into your calm ground rational mind, until you can get to a space to be able to do more deep work. And so, some of the things that we do, it's super easy, that can help tone that vagus nerve. And honestly, it's humming. And so, literally, I don't care if it's happy birthday, I don't care if it's you're my sunshine, ABCs, like literally just starting to hum. And if you have a child, you can have the child hum with you, but that really helps to tone that vagus nerve and start to calm you down. Singing does as well, but some people feel like that's harder. But like, even taking a moment to go and belt out, again, it doesn't matter what you sing or say to your kid, like, we're going to sing the Wheels on the Bus. Here we go. Right. That can really help just in a given moment. And it can help change your kids' perspective because they weren't expecting it, right? And distraction is sometimes really, really good. There's other things that can just bring people into the present. We have our senses, and different people, it's hard to give tools because different things are going to resonate differently with different people. But some people, it's something visual. So if like you love your dog, even if your dog isn't there, if you have a picture of your dog available on your phone, or, you know, in your wallet or whatever, that you can just start to look at your dog and tap into how you feel about your dog and calm down. insert whatever there. It could be an animal, it could be your favorite place that you've been, it could be a place you've never been but want to go, that you kind of keep that image to be able to look at that visually helps you start to calm down. It could be something around smell. Some people, having it will interrupt kind of that I'm in fight or flight. So some people will carry like a mint or cinnamon candy or something that's hot and spicy that they're able to put that they can taste and also smell. Or essential oils, like if that is your sense that you resonate with the most. So a pleasant smell that you can have with you, or if it's taste, something that a piece of gum, a candy that you can put in really quickly. What it does is it brings you to the immediate moment. And so it can help when you are going to a different place because it's connecting to stuff that is earlier in your own childhood, being able to be in the moment, be present in the moment, and be able to operate from what's happening right now without necessarily the influence of that past unresolved thing. And so the people that I work with, it'll be something very present. Well, they'll say, "Oh my gosh, I am super anxious about this presentation I have to give at work." But that's weird because I give a presentation like once a month, but for some reason I'm really nervous about this one. It's like once we start getting into therapy, we're able to see, ooh, this actually links to an earlier time and we don't know why it links that way. The brain subcortically does not make sense of information the same way that our prefrontal does. And so it's like it'll be connected on a deep brain level. And for whatever reason, it's showing up in this presentation. But we're able to do the healing from childhood so that it makes more sense and that they're able to feel more calm entering into that presentation because it doesn't make sense. You give presentations all the time. Why is this happening? Not unlike David Grand, who, discovered brain spotting. He was working with an elite athlete. She could do a lot harder things. She was an ice skater. She could do a lot harder moves than something called a triple loop, but she was getting stuck around this triple loop. And it's a compulsory part of every routine. So she was competing at a rate lower than what her skill set was. Because for some reason, this move was giving her the hard time on the ice. Well, once he discovered brain spotting with her and recognized as he was going across her line of vision very slowly that her eyes wobbled and he instinctively held that spot, all this new material, even though he'd worked with her for over a year for hour and a half hour sessions, an hour and a half session every week, all of a sudden all this new material came forward and all these themes that they'd already touched on came together on a deeper level. And all of a sudden, after that one session, she went to do the triple loop the next day and never had that problem again. And so sometimes we're just able to have the right things come into harmony, that things that feel hard today after brain spotting, they don't feel hard anymore. And so it really is neuroscience that we're using, but it can feel very spiritual and it can feel like a miracle. Because you'll be like, there was no way I was going to be able to give that presentation without falling apart. And then you do. And it just shows like our capacity is infinite to heal. And there's so many things we don't think we're capable of, but we are. And you're able to unlock that through approaches that are powerful, like brain spotting. There's other approaches, but that's the one that I like best. I know you do too.
Oh yeah, Definitely. And for all the reasons that you said, and like I said in the beginning, I really think of it as like science meets soul because you're right, it can feel very spiritual, and especially when we're tapping into some really deep stuff that might not even be conscious to us, and then being able to connect that with the way that we're showing up as a parent.
Yeah.
I mean, it can be really the first time that a lot of our clients even make the connection that what they're bringing into
Yes.
parenting is connected to past stuff.
Yeah. And just the unburdening of the nervous system and holding that in the past. Well, part of becoming a parent is reflecting and saying, okay, these are the people who raised me. I want to be like them this way, and I don't want to be like them in these ways. Right? Because there's going to be things we admire and things that we really are like, nope. And, that, well, in retrospective, right? And so that's what makes it so hard when we do fall in and do the things that we thought we wouldn't, or feeling ways we thought we wouldn't. Because I do think it gets a little bit idealized, because there is nothing like actual parenting. There's no comparable experience you can have before you have to do it. And then once you're in it, you're in it. And so you're like, oh, that's what they meant. Oh, because you can tell someone about an experience, but it's vastly different when you're actually experiencing it in 360, like on such a it's a persistent role. Teachers and coaches, they do their time and then they separate, right? Parenting is persistent. Yes, your kid might be away for part of the time, but they're always coming back and you're always right. Like, and so I just don't think that people recognize that you're constantly trying to be in the present and show up the way you really want to, while managing the stuff from the past and trying to integrate that, whether that's through talking to a friend, whether that's through getting therapy, whether it's exercising or going to acupuncture or trying something different, that everyone's trying to get back to what feels the most calm and grounding and what feels like homeostasis, right? Like our systems are always trying to find that balance of not too much, not too little, just right. And I think that it's a lifelong process.
Totally. And when I think back to the topic, right? The
Yeah.
building compassion,
Yeah.
I really appreciate you bringing into the frame the compassion for like self and as a parent, and then also compassion for our kids, right? Because
Mm.
gosh, they're going through a lot, right? Developmentally at every stage, it's a lot for them too.
It is. It is. And so I think it's easier for a lot of people, not everyone, but to build more compassion for their child. And in that moment, they can objectively see it's just this little person who's just gone through this whole day and they just need this. I think it's harder to build self-compassion because I think people are like, I should blank,
Mhm.
right? I should be calm, or I should have made dinner already, or I should have like, yeah, there's a lot of shoulds that come up. And so I do think it is important to have compassion for our children and their expectations, and just our system is set up to be pretty difficult, really. But it's also important to turn inward and be like, and I'm doing the best that I can do right now, because the strong majority of people are. And the people who are worried about getting it right, they're the most conscientious people,
Mm,
right? Like the people who don't self-reflect, the people who don't kind of double check, am I doing this right? Like, is there a better way? Like the people who aren't doing that are the ones who probably need the most help. But the folks who are self-reflecting, turning inward, wondering, is there an easier way? Is there a better way? Like those folks are the ones who are going to find the healing and who need to have the most compassion of being like, this is not how I wanted this to be. And there's still time to repair and do better, right? Because I think that's part of it, is that parents get upset when there's even a small rupture with their kid, and they'll feel like, oh my gosh, my parent did that to me. But here's the difference, is if you are able to go back and repair that rupture with your child. So if you act differently than you want to, your kid makes a request and you snap at your child, and then you separate and are able to ground and be able to come back and be able to own it and say, hey, I am really sorry I snapped at you. You know, I was not in a good place to be able to take your request, and I'm really sorry. Like, and this is how I'm going to do better. But you have to really do it, right? You have to really try, like,
right.
to be able to say, and so next time, Like, I'm going to make sure I have a snack before we talk, right? Or we should go outside and walk if you're going to ask something of me, right? Like, it makes some kind of change or difference that could really help, but also be like, okay, what did I not get as a child? Most likely. I mean, some people might have gotten the repair, but most people I talked to didn't. Like, this thing would happen, they would get yelled at, they would get sent away, and then they'd come back and everybody would act like it didn't happen.
Right.
And so it's being able to come back and be like, no, yep, that happened. Not my finest moment. I'm truly sorry. And this is what we can try to do different. And like, here's my commitment to you, but only say what you're willing to do. And it teaches them how to take responsibility, how to make apologies, and how to be honest and forthcoming, right? And being able to say, like, I had a really rough day, and that is not your fault, that it came out on you. And next time, I'm going to try to find a place to put that energy that's not you.
Thank you
And
for
that's the
saying
best we can do. It's the best like, right? And so it's like you don't have to get it right every time. You move towards getting it right. And when there's rupture, you make as best repair as you possibly can. And then you turn inward with that self-compassion of, oh, I'm carrying a lot too. I'm doing a lot too. I really am going to pledge to do this differently where I can. And I really have to have that compassion for myself, and your partner, if you have one, and your partner back to you, because I do see often that parenting is harder than people thought it would be, and different people respond differently to the different things that happen. And so trying the couple doesn't always have to agree, but at least having like an understanding of how to move forward and how to be on the same team, even if we don't have the same game plan and methods all the time, that we are working towards the same outcome and can try to support each other in a moment, because that can feel really lonely too. And be able to have someone that you can turn to and be like, wow, I just really messed that up. And then be able to help soothe you as well, give you compassion and talk about how you guys as parents are able to do things differently. And if you don't have a partner, having a support system where there's someone available who can and who can hold that with you and you can hold that with them. I think that's how we feel less alone.
Beautiful.
The people that I work with rarely have a very straightforward path to parenthood. There's zigzags, whether it's a pregnancy loss or a child loss, needing assisted reproduction or having a mood challenge. Like, it's very rarely the people I see. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. People come to me, it's rarely very straightforward. And so when they finally get their outcome of a live birth and a child that they're able to raise, I think it gets really confusing to them to have any negative thoughts or difficulties, because they're just so grateful that they got there. And so I just see that burden being really present of, but like, we had to work so hard to get you, and or we went through so much to be able to get to this end point. I shouldn't feel this way, or I need to be better, or right, like, and I'm saying that that's part of it, is that when you're on a journey to become a parent, you have a sole focus is to get the outcome. And so very often people don't work through the challenges. They just kind of barrel down and keep moving forward. And so then they get their baby, and they're raising their baby, and all the things that they faced that were difficult from childhood, from the journey itself, all come forward. And it really is overwhelming. So being able to be with, oh my gosh, I've been through all of these things and I should feel so grateful. And we finally got what we want. Why am I not enjoying this? And so it's being able to realize there is help available. Like, we can help bring more congruency to that feeling and not being hard on yourself. It's really hard. But when you're on that journey to parenthood, you have to be relentless to be able to make it through. And so, yes, ideally you'd be able to, in tandem, as you are working through whatever's keeping you from getting your baby, like it'd be great if you're able to get mental health support through it. Some people do, a lot of people don't, but it's never too late. And being able to feel like, oh my gosh, I should just be grateful because so many people are still on a journey and I'm finally done. Being able to have that compassion of, right, but these things really happen. And, I know you want them to just go away, but that's not how our brains work. That we can say, oh, I'm just going to compartmentalize and bury that. And it pops up and goes, hi, I'm still here. Ready to deal with me yet? Nope, I'm going to shove you out. Hi, still here, right? And so it's being able to recognize, like, it doesn't matter what stage or phase you're in. Like, yes, if I could have my way, everybody who's thinking about becoming a parent would have an established relationship with a therapist that they got to know, who knows their backstory, and that they could just call at any point. Because I think that's what's hardest, is that if you are in a huge struggle period, it's really hard to pick up the phone and be like, hi, do you work with what I've got going on? Do you have openings? Like,
Right.
are we a good fit? It's really hard to do that when you're already in a place of feeling like you're drowning. So if I could send that energy to the world, even if you just had somebody that you're like, we're in good shape, we're just gonna check in once a month leading in, but like, having that kind of safety net in place so that you can reach out if you need. It's really when, I hate to say that. Well, because different people have different challenges at different times. So some people don't have challenging years until the tween years. Some people have infant challenges, some people have pregnancy challenges, but having an established relationship really is a protective factor because it's hard enough to even schedule and find a time to go in or get online with someone that you know. It's even harder to start from scratch. So it's not about who deserves a baby. It's not about who should be a parent. Everybody's on their own journey. The journey is difficult. Even if it's easy, it's difficult. And having support and familiar faces in place can make all the difference when you need them. So that would just be my little side plug for anyone who's thinking about, should I try therapy? Yes. You will not regret it because it's just the nature of life, And I think for someone who goes through such a brain and body based experience like a birth, or a partner who's non-birthing but is going through the process with someone who is, having therapy that involves your brain and your body is going to give you so much relief, especially when you need it. And so just keeping all of those things in mind, if you want to learn more about brain spotting, you can go to brainspotting.com. There is directories as well for folks who are interested in receiving brain spotting or want to know more. Also, the intersection of perinatal, the Postpartum Support International is a fantastic organization with a ton of resources. And so being able to go to their website as well, to be able to see people in the directory. Some people are both brain spotting trained and do perinatal, but they really help people on this journey, and all the different stages and phases that challenges can pop up.
And so how can folks connect with you directly?
Sure. So like I said, I'm Atlanta based, but I do see folks online, and depending upon the situation and what people are needing, can either make referrals or sometimes I'm able to see folks depending where you are. But my business name is Supportive Solutions. And so my website is supportivesolutionsga like Georgia.com. For those who are clinicians who might be listening to this, who are interested in working with perinatal or with brain spotting, I also offer brain spotting trainings. I'm a trainer. And so we often talk about the intersectionality of the perinatal period, along with how to use brain spotting. So on my website, there's also training information. You can connect with me also via Facebook through Supportive Solutions, or if you're a brain spotter, there's Brain Spotting and Perinatal Mental Health Facebook group that you can join, and love to connect. This is absolutely my passion population, and really helping people heal, because I feel like when we heal birth givers, we're healing the world. Because if we're able to stop the cycles that are intergenerational challenges and being able to focus more on post-traumatic growth and tapping into the intergenerational strengths that get passed to us, that we really change things from this point forward and be able to help people move forward. Hopefully, our children are able to parent more the way they want, and their children are able to parent more the way they want. It's a constant evolution and balance between healing what's happened to us and being able to show up the way that we really want to in our role as a parent, as a coach, as a teacher, as an influencer, whatever that may be. Helping people have that congruence is everything. And so even if you have a really bad moment, being able to recognize, like, there's people who are leading this work who want you to have that self-compassion, trying to make space to tap into that. And we learn more from our mistakes than we ever do from our triumphs. And being able to pass that on to our children, that builds resilience, that builds that intergenerational strength that we're looking to emulate. And that no matter how bad you think you are doing, your kids think the world of you, and they still want to be like you. And so being able to find that harmony and showing up more like the parent you want to be makes that feel better and better.
All right. Take care, everybody. Until next time.